Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Leaders Are Healers podcast. This is Daniel Sonolomulifi, your host, as we welcome today our profound, phenomenal, one of the most important and influential citizen in our city, Sunnyboy Selepe.
Thank you, Dr. Mulifi.
We welcome you. Thank you very much for making time. It is not easy to find you.
Actually, it is. It depends on the days.
The days, timing.
Yes.
No, we sat down with the team with a list of guests, and they were adamant to say, no, let's get in Sunnyboy Selepe. We normally follow him on Star FM, follow him on Facebook, and we will love to have him on board. And I said, okay, I'll make it happen. So we thank the Lord that you've made it.
Thank you, Vich. I'm actually very honored.
Thank you very much for honoring us. How are you?
I'm okay as a person. Life is continuing.
Yes, sir.
Life was never created to be easy. So every time you wake up and things go south, it's part and parcel of life. We learn out of it, we move on.
Wow. Life is never a straight line.
No.
It's never a straight line. But Sunnyboy Selepe, how is your Sunday? How is the family? And how is Sunnyboy Selepe in general, professionally and otherwise?
The family is good. God has been good. Unfortunately, in recent weeks, I had my in-laws hospitalized. My mother-in-law had to go through an intensive care unit. She was in a coma for about 1.5 weeks. But we're good. Otherwise, God has been good. We can't complain.
We thank the Lord.
Yeah. And professionally, I'm not so sure sometimes. Let me rather not say professional. Let me say career-wise. Career-wise, I'm fine. You would know that I left Joburton in recent years. I'm at the province now, established there, and doing what I do best.
Doing what you do best. You know why I started to ask you about the family? Is that I believe that if we cannot lead that aspect, then everything else we lead might not go well.
Correct. A family is the smallest atom of the whole
the
community.
Bigger
If family does not work, community can't work. In fact, what we see now that is not working in communities can be successfully traced to families that do not work.
True, because if many leaders want to lead outside, they are public leaders and public strong, but they are private weak. When we go to their private space, of which consists, like you say, an atom of leadership, that's where now all things fall apart. But when they come from that brokenness, when they come from that failure in secret, they want to come and lead the bigger picture, and more people of which they end up now using the same skills they've learned there, here, and we don't go anywhere.
Actually, family builds everything. If a man has to be a pastor, the same Bible teaches that he should have good relations with family and the community. So for obvious reasons, no leader comes from a broken family. You have to be very strong to overcome the brokenness of your own family in order to become a leader.
Yes, sir. So now, how best we can speak to aspiring leaders, how best we can speak to fathers, how best we can speak even to our political leaders who are good being comrades but bad of being fathers. And remember, these are the people who are going to make policies one day.
Of course, and sometimes that's why it becomes difficult for political leaders to do politics. Because politics are a food at home. If your politics are not right at home, if your children don't grow up knowing that we come from a particular background, we are working towards a particular goal as a family, they cannot influence the space of community correctly.
Yes.
And as a result, we need leaders that are grounded at home. We're not saying for us to get a president, he doesn't have to go through a divorce.
Yes.
We're saying if he goes through a divorce, he learns out of the divorce what are the weaknesses that he has, and he has contributed to come to a point where the family has disintegrated.
Yes, I love the word contributed, because many people, they don't look at what they contribute to what happens to them. They quickly want to point fingers to what is happening, but they are not saying, what role have I played? If things are not going well in my family, if things are not going well at work, what is my contribution? Yes, I might be a victim, but how did I allow this to happen?
Correct. And that is a basic trait of a leader. Setswana sa re kgomo ha e fetsa go ja ya busulusa.
Yes.
A leader must constantly look at how he lives the 24 hours and go back and say, in these 24 hours, I led people this way, I lived this way, and I said the following. What is it that I can correct? So that out of the 24 hours, I become a better person moving to 48 hours.
Yeah. Because, sorry, yes.
And until we do an assessment that way, it becomes then difficult to assess people who challenge you. Because leaders a leader is a person who has got strong analytic skills. He needs to sit down and say, all right, now that I'm in this problem, what do I get out of it? And then you will then come later at how. First is why did I get in?
Yes.
What do I get out? And how do I get out?
Yes.
And once those three are satisfied, you are a better person next time.
Then you're a better leader.
Yes.
Because I normally say, if you don't know where you're standing, you don't know how to stand.
Actually, if you don't even know what you are standing for, you fall for everything.
Because many people, they don't know what makes them, and they want to go out and make other people.
And you can't. You must first know what makes you.
Yes, because the ingredients that you used to make you are the same ingredients you are going to make a menu to make others with.
Exactly. I've always said, and the Bible was very good in teaching that. Jesus says, love thy neighbor as you love thyself. Now, it starts with you. You cannot sell something that you don't possess.
Yes.
So you need to possess in order to sell. And you need to influence yourself before you influence others.
But then, where are we as far as spiritual leadership, as far as political and economics? Where are we as people? And are we in good hands as far as leadership is concerned? Is even the word leadership being used correctly?
I think if we were to look at the country, the first thing is to start by first saying it is difficult to have a country being led by politicians and not leaders.
Yes.
It's a difficult situation.
And there's a difference there.
There's a massive difference.
Yes.
Remember, a politician, besides a person who is politically inclined, is manufactured by popularity.
True.
And leadership is manufactured by principle.
True.
So, the problem of South Africa has always been that we were freed by people who were leaders and then became politicians. Now we have politicians who are trying to become leaders.
Hey.
And it's a difficult situation. When you start from popularity, you want to come into a principle. Because a principle is a fixed thing. And popularity depends on which side you sleep on.
And how many people are following you.
Correct.
Because now, it takes me back to say whether we're ready for this democracy or not. Because if you are saying that our leaders who really came up with this thing of liberation and freedom and to the dawn of democracy in 1994, they were leaders, meaning principled and. But now they need to come to a popular stand. Maybe that's where we got everything wrong.
Yeah, and remember, popularity is not only depending on the numbers of people. It also depends on the money available.
Yes.
Popularity also comes to that. Because if leaders were not driven by money and popularity, they would not therefore be captured. The fact that we can capture a leader, first of all, means the capturer is not principled. A leader who gets captured is also not principled.
Yes.
Because if either of them was principled, then the movement of capturing would be impossible.
Hey, so but then here is a leader who's been captured. And maybe putting it in context and to avoid being political and striving to be political correct as well, is that we're not speaking about your Guptas and
no.
We're speaking about leadership being captured.
Yeah.
So How do we emancipate ourselves from this?
First of all, we need to establish what is a leader. Remove a leader from a position.
Yes.
Put him at an influence stage.
Yes.
And say to him, if you want to be a leader, you need to influence us. But if you want to influence us, you influence us from a position where you are influenced. And once you give us your influence, you will give us a vision.
Yes, sir.
Once you give us a vision, it will be propelled by passion.
Yes, sir.
And once those combine together, they will then produce a principled person.
Yes, sir.
But with the lack of all of them or either of them, there's an opportunity. Sankara once said, if a soldier does not have a political clouding, he has got a chance of becoming a criminal or a mercenary.
Yay. No, that is Selepe. But this is very nice. Because the challenge is this: we young people, we are, and looking down to generations just after 1985 or 1980, going down. Mm-hmm. We are a leaderless. That's my diagnosis. Mm-hmm. We are a leaderless society, mm-hmm. and the most influenced.
Yeah.
And therefore, my worry becomes what we are going to inherit from these leaders who became politicians, because of that means they downgraded what actually a leader should be. Mm-hmm. And these politicians who are striving to become
leaders.
Let me say not even politicians. Let me say these populists, mm-hmm. who want to become these influential, principled mm-hmm. people. Mm-hmm. Now they are the ones getting elected to power. Then we are struggling with simple things that only need maintenance, mm-hmm. not even to start infrastructural work on them.
Correct.
So now, what can we say in terms of inspiring and making sure we empower these leaders and those ones who want to be leaders in the future, to say, should they look there as a point of reference, or what can they prefer going forward as far as leadership is concerned?
A leader must first know that he's a brand. He's representing him and how people view him.
Yes, sir.
Before you influence people, you must understand that you are a brand. I always say to people, a brand is not a person who brags. A brand is a person who's selective on who he wants into his inner cycle and who he wants in his outer cycle. Because inner cycle tend to influence your thinking.
Yes, sir.
Now, as a brand, normally people say to me, that is Selepe, do you drink? I say no. We have never seen you in a tavern. I say, the problem with a tavern is two-faced. Mm. If I walk into a tavern to celebrate with people, the first phase of there is somebody can step on my shoe and calmly say to him, you step on my shoes, and then he makes noise, and then he makes everything becomes wrong. And then if we get into a fight, a person who's not a brand suffers nothing.
Yes.
For me, it will be, the headlines will be, top cop assaults.
Hey, first page.
First page. Or, if I assaulted him, they can't give him a win. They say, top cop involved in a Shebeen brawl. So, for me, there's nothing to win. And as a result, I choose not to be compromised by coming closer to where I might be compromised.
Yes. It means it's the wisdom that we need to apply in our leadership principle. If
Exactly.
you know you are going to lose, don't fight.
Don't fight.
Yeah, if you know, Kuti, this is not worth it, don't engage.
Don't try. Don't try.
Because you might become too much to it and still be wrong.
Exactly.
You might even avoid it, but for the fact that you are in its vicinity, you are still wrong.
You are still wrong.
So rather don't engage on it.
Exactly. That is why I always say to people, when people talk about a leader, I always divide them into three groups. The first group, when you come to an institution to lead, and that's what leaders must understand. When you come to an institution to lead, there's about 50% of the people who know nothing about you, who are ready to be led by you, who are ready to put all the fight to make this thing success. Right? And you've got another 30% that will take you, 20% that will take you to 70%, that knows something about you. They've heard something about you. They know something negative about you. And when you come in, they would want to taste and test the waters.
True.
And those are the people that you work hard as a leader to convince. And once you've convinced them, chances are you'll only convince 30% of them. And then you'll still remain with the rest not convinced. But accept accept that in the same institution, there's about 30% that you will never convince whatever you do. And it is this 30% that you are actually created and you are actually manufactured to come and lead. If you lead your opposition to a point that they accept that, look, we have tried everything, but this guy knows his story.
Yes.
Then you have led. Remember, the rest are on your side. Your fight is the 30%.
You've got 70 behind you.
Exactly. Now, what is the difference between a leader and a populist? A populist will look at the 70% and say, no, I'm okay. Forgetting that the 70% may move tomorrow to the 30%.
To the 30%.
If you are not dealing with the power of the 30%, you cannot keep intact the 70%.
Power maintenance.
Power maintenance
is a strategic thing. You need to know how to maintain power and balance it, because of 70 is still watching.
70 is still watching.
30 they are making noise but still watching.
And remember, the longer noise is made about you, even if it's a lie, the other 70% start to doubt the truth that they know about you.
Hey, that 20 you were struggling with now is joining 70. Then you are on a 50-50.
You are on a 50-50.
And we don't know, can we call you a leader then?
Chances are the noisemakers will overpower the quiet.
Yes.
Yeah. And once the quiet people, even if they trust in your vision and everything that you give to them, once they are silenced by the noise of the detractors, trust me, your leadership becomes questionable.
And that is fundamental.
That's fundamental.
Let me tell you the profound part of it. Today, in the leaders who are leading us, be it in the church, be it in politics, be it in finances or economics, people who are making noise, who are burning tires, who are insulting people have been elected to lead. But smart people like yourself have been criticized. You're too smart, cannot be controlled.
Exactly. Unfortunately, if we take leadership from a premise that God created it, He says, go thee and dominate. Now, when you can't be free. You see, I always say to people, freedom is two ways. It's free plus dominate. Yes. You can't be free unless you dominate circumstances, you dominate people, you dominate discussions, you dominate ideas, you dominate direction. Unless you dominate these things, you can't be free.
Claim to be free.
You can't be free. And currently, why am I saying we are not free? Because we are not yet dominating the economy. So we need to dominate the economy. I've always argued, and I will continue to argue, it's impossible to transfer what is in a pocket of somebody into your own pocket.
True.
You must first put it on the table. Now, the best way to change the economic lack of South Africa is to start to create our own cake as black people. Start to create our own economy. And remember, we are the buying power. People undermine what we are capable of doing.
We're in majority.
We are in majority. And if we stop going to Klerksdorp will come to us.
Yes.
They have no choice.
True.
The problem is we are consistent in going to Klerksdorp.
Even when it moves to Dorenkrein, we still go.
We still go there. We still focus in...
Even when Klerksdorp moves.
Even when Klerksdorp indicates that we don't want you, we force ourselves into Klerksdorp.
Klerksdorp is moving towards minority and the majority comes running.
Yeah. And we need a time and a space to discuss the economic dynamics of the township and start to say, how do we change these dynamics to suit us? You can't say Tower Mall. It's a economic hub of Joburg while you still have Uraniaville.
True.
But how do you use Tower Mall and Uraniaville to make sure that people that are in Joburg have got no business to go to town? And let's see how the ShopRite in town survives.
Yes, how the Flamewood works.
Let's see how. Let's see whether, because they think they have got money, whether they will sustain without us.
Yes.
Let's see.
So, but then, this is very interesting because now, one of the guests we are looking to have is one of the economists in our city. And I would bounce this with him.
Please.
Because it is a bothering factor that the city of Matlosana, the last time we wake up in the morning, we had City Hall. We went to bed. When we woke up the other day, we had Matlosana Mall. Good and well. Before we sleep, before City Mall, we had ShopRite and Checkers as one. Then there is Checkers, there is ShopRite there, and there is Checkers there.
But also look at where Checkers is placed.
Yeah,
and where ShopRite is placed.
Yes.
It defines how a white man thinks about us.
Yes, yes.
He takes ShopRite, which is never clean, and place it in a taxi rank where we are in majority.
Yeah. And you'll never see Checkers there.
You'll never see Checkers. Go to if it's not Checkers, if it's not ShopRite, it's
Boxer.
It's Boxer.
Hey.
And nobody talks to it to say, so all the things that seem to be close to expiry,
They've been brought to us. We are still a dumping site.
we are a dumping site while we are the economic strength of the country.
It's like shooting a banker.
Exactly.
It's like not necessarily shooting a banker. It's like enslaving a banker.
Mm-hmm.
You make him wear a suit to go count millions and take him back to Joburton to live in a shack.
Exactly. The
The millions he sees every day, they don't impact his life in either way.
And once a person has such around him that does not impact, he becomes a stadium for every idea that comes. That can make him free, even if the idea is not principled.
But what are our leaders doing?
The first question is, do we have leaders? What we have, can we define
As
leadership? And once we are done defining leadership, can we patch them in the definition of leadership without saying, Ish mariwa leg?
Yes, yes. Can they be found in the definition itself?
Yeah. And that's the challenge that we have in South Africa. And not only South Africa, Africa as a whole.
As a whole.
Yeah. Is how do we define leadership? Remember, Thabo Mbeki gave a very nice statement. He says, we need to ask ourselves a question. What are the challenges? What type of leadership do we need to deal with the challenges? If we don't have that type of leadership, are we in a process of building that type of leadership
so that we solve the problem? Because there is a political party that I'm not going to call by name now. I've heard the secretary saying mutu mutu. Kinako ya mutu kumutu. Because now they are campaigning. But I wish that after they are elected, they can say now a leader to their own responsibilities.
Exactly.
Because I think the same principle will help.
The most uneducated president that we had established in the presidency, he established a ministry that deals with analysis of performance. Performance ministry. When last did you ever hear that ministers have been called to account on their portfolios? It ended with him.
With him, yeah. Apart from them being called to court.
And when they do not, they do not produce, we then pressure their leader, who's also not producing. To get rid of them. How is that going to work?
I mean, these are friends. They believe in the same school of thought and ideology. So,
and the problem is, once you are in the same school of thought, if your school of thought is poor, it doesn't have the right content, you do not want to consult to enrich your content.
Yes.
You remain with the same content.
It takes.
That is why every election we have manifestos. Manifestos are promises. When are we turning manifestos into commitments?
Reality.
Literally into commitments. Say, you committed to this, give us time frame.
Yes.
In the manifesto, you say we are going to do this. Give a time frame. You give us a time frame, and then we hold you accountable to your time frame.
To your time frame, yes.
Yeah.
It's like every year, December, you are making resolutions. Hey, basically that's what manifesto means. It's like every time, every year, we make resolutions.
Correct.
And how do you make a new resolution? Let's say you said you want to study this year. The next day you said, I didn't study, I want to study again, but you're not even reviewing what was the cause of you not studying then. Review that and re-implement it if possible.
Correct.
So that's what the manifesto it is today.
And unfortunately, government consists of administrations.
True.
And an administration comes in and it doesn't ask what were the plans of the previous administration. Where do I take these plans to? It creates a new plan.
A councillor comes in for 5 years after the other one left.
Yeah.
This one has 2 years to make sure he learned the system because he was never a councillor before.
Exactly.
When he learns, he's got 5 years to lead. When he learns 2 years, he neglect the people because he must be in council trying to read this, trying to call meetings and all that. Now 2 years is gone. Now he's got another year to make sure now that I know council, how do I best position myself? People are still neglected. On the remaining 2 years, when he wants now to become a ward councillor, he must now prepare for elections.
That's the problem. That's the problem of lack of leadership, because in leadership you hand over. You take a person who comes. The election are not held, should not be held to remove the guys in office. The election should be held in order to prepare for the guys that will come in, so that when they come in, at least the election should be held a year before.
True.
So that when a guy comes in, there's a proper handing over.
The time and space for handover.
Exactly.
No, thank you very much for that one. I want us to quickly now move to the issue of spirituality. I want to move to church.
Okay.
Because I think it is one organization as well that has a lot of followership.
Correct.
And yet they are not making the impact necessary.
Correct.
So I want, you are a preacher of the word, you are a scholar of the word, and can you take us through that? What is that we are getting wrong as church? Look, we've got so much social illnesses. You'll never see a church. Politicians and political people are closing space, even if they are not helping, but they are visible. Thugs and crooks, they are visible. Church members, we only see them with 2 pieces going to church. 2 pieces, I mean matching clothes. Going to that building and being holy in the building, coming out and go back to their old ways. And on their way there, they passed a Nyaupe boy. On their way back, they are drunkards who just stepped each other there. But the church member is not bothered.
Despite the efforts of Jesus Christ to locate God inside us, we are trying to locate God outside of ourselves.
Okay.
That's the first basic mistake that we do. That's why he says, he who's in you is better than he who's in the world.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
He tried to locate. And then he said, your bodies are a building for God to stay in. The moment you know that you should not attend church, but you are the church.
So it's an issue of occupation. Who is occupying this house?
Exactly.
And whoever occupies the house controls the house.
Exactly. The moment we know that we're not supposed to attend church, but we are the church. And then we start to say, if we are the church, we are carrying the message, which is the gospel. What was the purpose of the gospel as defined in the book of Luke? It was to set the captives free. How do I pass these captives that are captured on the street and go to where they are not located?
It's like preaching to the converted.
Exactly. A church has become a business where we are entertained by not even preachers. We are not entertained by preachers. No. We are entertained
by...
They
are misquoting scriptures.
Yeah, we are entertained in the main by inspirational leaders. Yeah, the guys that inspire. Because there are principles. You can't pray only for a person who is hungry. You need to solve his hunger.
Yes.
And that was why the church was brought in. Yes. If you read the book of Acts, it says, when the church was starting to take shape, they brought everything to the feet of the apostles, and the apostles divided according to the needs of people. It doesn't say what remained after the apostles apportioned themselves. Because apostles today apportion first for themselves.
They eat first.
And then the remnants may end up. A big may end up in somebody's table.
Chances are
he
might get another portion on remnants as well.
He might go and sit under the table.
You will eat on top and go out.
You see, we wanted to preach difficult scriptures about Paul and everybody else, ne? But the basic teachings are just to say you are the light, you are the salt, you make the world have sense.
Please, man.
So, the world is
a solution.
You are a solution. You are a solution.
So now you are a problem.
Now, if you don't know that you are a solution,
then you become a problem.
How do we then go to Romans 12 and say, be ye transformed in mind? Because
the renewal.
If salvation could not make you look things differently, how does... it's It's a massive
This
problem.
one is too much a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
But then, young people are growing up.
Mm-hmm.
They see doom being used as part of a spiritual tool for liberation, spirituality, and snakes and. Some see these pastors becoming celebrities.
Of course.
Today, pastors, Jesus was in the cross on top of the mountain. Today, pastors are in billboards on top of busy roads.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right? So people are still having the same view they had to Jesus who was on the cross, now to a billboard of a pastor who is now famous and more richer than the church.
Exactly.
How do we now bring the balance? Because, the more, what I've picked up is that when the church becomes rich, only rich people go to that church.
Of course. And the church was not supposed to be rich, by the way. Ne? The church must not subscribe to banking system. It can only be determined to be rich when the bank balance says the same.
So.
Now, it was not supposed to be. What it brings in must have gone out the same way.
They are a channel.
To change. Yeah, they're simply a channel. A channel that will bring in, pray over it, to say God multiply it as it goes. But now we say God multiply it as it stays. And the bank is also giving us the interest. Now, I'm not so sure whether God is multiplying. It becomes a challenge. It becomes a challenge.
Whether it's God or the bank charges.
I'm not so sure. But like I'm saying, that was the basis of how the church should have operated. The church should have made a difference. If there's a building that must make a difference, there are two buildings that can make a difference. It's a church and a school.
True.
Now, a school manufactures raw material. The church gives direction to this raw material to become a product.
My goodness.
And until the church understands that we are in a manufacturing business of manufacturing products from raw material, we must also ask ourselves a question. How does it happen that politics in South Africa, every time there's election, politicians go to churches, ne? And they don't come during the course of
of their term.
Of their term, they don't. Ne? They don't even ask for prayer. But as a church, shouldn't we be asking ourselves a question? If we are this influential, if we are the light of the world, how do we allow the president to be darkness?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this darkness can
how is it possible that 50 to 60 millions of people proclaim to be God-loving, yet they can't produce one person from themselves to lead them?
There's initiative of Ntate Mogoeng.
Of course.
And I'm not sure. I don't even hear Christians preaching about that and being excited about it.
He was frustrated by the Christians themselves. Christians are very dangerous.
No,
they're very dangerous.
These people.
Bansaba Pulusiti are deadly because they can associate with your enemy.
Yes.
And pray for your enemy.
Yes. And still feel good about it.
And then still feel good. And then still go to church every Sunday.
Yeah. That is why the first thing that a pastor will chase you from his church, that is why his church.
His church.
Yeah, tick that one out. He'll chase you from his church, that building. Now it brings me back to what you said. We are the church. So every Sunday we wear our suits. We run to a building that has a title deed of a name of this guy, the pastor. He pays the taxes for it, and that is why it's easy for him to. If you are not calling him spiritual father, you can leave the church.
Yeah, and people don't even realize how dangerous it is to call a person your spiritual father.
I think
maybe the church must start to be awakened in that angle. To say, Emma Puteo, not everybody is a father.
Is a father, true.
And not everybody is spiritual. So bring the two together. You are making a big mixture. And that mixture will take you to hell. Be careful.
A father and the spirituality of that father.
Hey, it's a deep thing.
You take that big, it's not even English.
Hey.
You take that concoction of spirituality and God himself. You call it. So you just made an idol.
Practically so.
Practically you have
created an idol.
You've created an idol.
And men of God are going to be frustrated when we call them idols. Because they are allowed to be called spiritual fathers.
Spiritual fathers.
When the Bible says your father is only one, he's in heaven.
In heaven.
Now somebody here calls him a
A
spiritual
spiritual
father.
father. And refuse to be classified as an idol. So I don't know, is English or
I think it's not English. I think pastors who allow themselves to be called spiritual fathers know exactly what it
what
means.
they are doing?
Yeah, they know exactly.
And what they are doing.
They are defocusing you from the author
The
and
real
the finisher
father
of your faith. So that you keep. But Sango.
That is why it's easy le ge a tla ka nno ga yul. We tshaba ya dipeba go ga gago.
Yeah, you'll subscribe.
Mara a tla itshwere yana father, spiritual father wa go isuna.
Smart.
Ya dipeba go tlung o taboga flat.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so for obvious reasons, that's why I'm saying across the board,
Yes.
we need principled leaders. Once a man is called by God, he must be principled first.
Assembly.
To say, I'm not bringing a concoction of anything. I'm preaching the gospel as clean as it is.
And
it could sound boring when it's preached as clean as it is. It's nice when you add your own spices.
Spices, yeah.
But spices, when you add them, they change the taste.
And the color of the food.
Hey.
Kana six gani gona o tla ire rice red.
Exactly.
It will taste nice, but it's not the original
It's not
color
the
of the
original
rice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what you are dishing actually, it is your own God.
Yeah, it is.
You are preaching from your own Bible.
Exactly.
So, but now, that is Selepe, before we wrap it up, this is nice. I always wanted to find someone who can come and we speak about this thing because of they are sensitive.
Yeah, they are.
They are sensitive, but yet true. So now, how do we move away from this spiritual capturing? We spoke about political and business capturing. Now this is a spiritual capturing. So that we make sure that, because someone said to me, it was even pasted on social media, did you know how are they taking care of each other?
Yeah.
But gate le tagwa le khona go ya go tavene le sena chelete.
Matagwa manga ba le nwesi.
Le be le tla le tagilo. Le sam bile ba le drop. Eh, ha ba le bona ka le tagilo that, but this I don't know ra go drop ya no ga o tlo go walk. But go to church hungry. You come back hungry.
Even more hungry.
Even more hungrier.
Yeah, because batlatlela mruti dijo go kerekeng and then o tla di galla, you become more hungry.
Yeah.
But the truth about the church is that when it was released from Egypt, it got captured in Babylon.
Yes.
And Babylon is dangerous because it looks like a church when it is not.
It is not.
It has all forms of the church.
It mimicked the church exactly.
Exactly. You see, I always say to people, you cannot preach church unless you see it in the book of Genesis.
Yes.
Why was the woman infiltrated? Because the infiltration of that woman, who represents the church, who is the figure of the church, means for you to come, you can easily infiltrate the church. The church is easy to infiltrate because it's a woman.
Yes.
And remember, when the woman was infiltrated, he changed the name. Eve is not the original woman. Eve was given a name because the Bible says,
yes.
Now the church listens, Shem. It listens. Yeah, and it reads everything. Shem. That's why it has got that spirit of listening.
Yes.
Because it is the signs are there. And it moves quickly from principles. Because ha adama atla ufitlhela gotwe rejile sit and eat jalwen. Now Jesus is different. Ha afitlhela lejile wa tswa wa tsamaya. But he does not stop this party to continue.
Yes.
He leaves the party.
The party but I'm not part of it.
But I'm not part of it. And that's where the problem is. Bazalwana, even when God has moved on and they are remaining behind, they don't realize but what you are having now is not good.
But motho na letsa phala o tsamaile. So no yana ke modumo wa rona le excitement ya phala e setse.
La go they are now spiritual ba bua ka diteng.
So be it as it may, that is Selepe. Thank you very much for coming. Honestly, this is a well of wisdom I wanted to bask under.
Thank you.
We're going to do this again. Our podcast,
avail
our
myself.
way, our system. We're going to do it again because
Yes.
there are many things I want us to speak about, and to bring to light and help our people, because I've got a view that if we are not speaking these things while we are alive, we are failing our own existence.
We are also failing the people that must take over from us.
Yes.
Because this is a relay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It's a
two,
relay.
we should even try to define in our endeavor in life to change people's life, to really bring definition clear between the called and the chosen.
Eish, we need that.
Yeah, because today we are led by the called, not the chosen. The chosen have been vilified.
Exactly.
They are named to be better. They think they are educated, and
they are kicked out.
this group, meeting, they are choosing leaders amongst themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what has been leading us.
That
But
is
thank you
right.
very much for making time, Dr. Selepe. We're going to make more time. Listeners, we're going to make so much time to make sure we deal with this principle. Because to tell you the truth, we cannot budge without leadership.
Without. No.
And if leaders cannot heal our land, then followers will attempt.
Julius Malema has got a nice way of putting it.
Yes.
He says, if revolution, because revolution is a buzzword of a leader.
Yes.
If revolution becomes unled, it has got a challenge, because once it's unled, it produces results that we are not expecting.
That we are not expecting. And talking about Julius Malema, it brings me back to politics. 29 May, local elections. 29 May, provincial and national elections. What is your take?
I think the NC will emerge.
Okay.
Not as strong as it should be. I think the ANC has thrown away people who might carry it.
Basically, they've taken the salt away.
Yeah, no, they are done. And the only problem is that ANC had big numbers, over
Yes,
millions.
yes.
Now you can't reduce them to hundreds.
No, you can't.
You must also cut them to millions and millions until they
Until-
arrive at 100.
yes.
So obviously, if there's 15 million people voting, the ANC will get at least 7 million of those people.
Yeah, but I think if they hear what you are saying now, they will rest comfortably. Remember, they've prepared themselves for coalition already. There's a policy they have adopted of defeat. They
Yeah.
call it coalition policy.
Even if they go to coalition, they will still determine the kingship of the coalition, unless, and that's unfortunate, unless our politics are no more sponsored by our enemy.
True.
But for as long as our politics
Are sponsored by-
are sponsored by the enemy, remember what the enemy, when it sponsors Mzansi, Rise Mzansi, when it sponsors Maiman, when it sponsors Mashaba, it's not actually changing anything. It's saying, let's divide the vote into smaller pieces, but the ANC must remain with a bigger piece.
Yes.
Now, the ANC must understand, when it remains with a bigger piece, it has got a responsibility to use that piece so that history must judge it correctly.
70-30 principle you spoke about.
Yes.
So now, here comes Msholozi, the first president in history to define even the constitution of his own political party, has his own political party.
Yes.
Comes Julius Malema, all the creams that are coming from this organization, Big Giant ANC. What do you see? What do you foresee? The damage being caused, that is going to be caused by the MK party and versus the perpetual strength and wisdom provided through the EFF versus the big giant of which is the ANC.
Let's put it this way. Our politics are people say they are not a regional party. Let me
Yes.
tell them, all of them, they are a regional party. There's no one that is not a regional party. All of them, including the ANC, they are a regional party. Why am I saying this? The ANC cannot win any election if it does not win Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal.
True.
That's region.
True.
That's a region.
True.
And let me tell you the story now. The ANC is not winning KwaZulu-Natal.
Full stop.
Full stop. It has lost it.
Full stop.
And the ANC has already lost Gauteng.
Ish.
As a result, the ANC must mobilize Eastern Cape to go to vote. The ANC is in a process of losing Limpopo and Mpumalanga.
And they've been having this red beret as a challenge in Limpopo already.
Exactly. Now, with those dynamics, even the guys that are going to form a government unless they have a national agenda, which the ANC has failed to develop over 30 years. We need a national agenda that says, in the same way that Japan did. Japan said, after the Hiroshima and those bombs, it says, we are going to inherit people who are not psychologically right, who are not physically right. Therefore, what can we complement ourselves on? They said, okay, let's sit down. Let's then sit down and say, we want to be technologically wise. Now, if we are technologically wise, people don't need to work hard.
Yes.
They need to sit behind their desks and create cell phones, and they've created cell phones and laptops and cameras and everything else.
And the country is thriving on that wave.
Right. Now, when the ANC came in 1994, instead of looking at the political power, they should have said, where do we want this country to be in 10 years and in 20 years? How do we get it there? You can't get it there if your education does not address your deficit.
True.
You can't.
True.
Your education system must address the deficit. If you need engineers, pay for engineers. They must go to school for free.
Produce engineers.
Yeah, produce them.
Basically, produce what you need.
Produce what
so
you
that you
need.
reach
Now
an
we are
effective
talking the
government.
fourth industrial revolution. That one will be determined by technology. If our own engineers can't build a bridge without the Chinese,
then Chinese are basically supervisors or principals to the engineering world.
And then you have this guy who's a PhD who cannot keep the lights of ESCOM on.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Sunnyboy Selepe, thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you
very much, my leader. I'm honored. And it is a wrap. We are going to meet again. This is Leaders Are Healers podcast, where we believe in quality leadership, where we believe in speaking power to power.
Correct.
We are no more going to go back. We are no more going to be shy to tell the truth that, church, wake up. Wake up. The time of being spiritual and falling is gone. It is time to feed the poor. If not, those ones you are taking for granted will create bread that will feed the poor and make churches empty. Stay tuned. Leaders Are Healers. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like and ring that bell. And above all, make sure on comment section below you comment so that we know what you want and how best we can bring you content that will change your life. Be blessed.